Good morning to all of you. So, am I audible? Ashraf, can you hear me? Yeah, right. So, the topic that Kumar Gaurav gave me, he said that Professor Chandan, we want you to explain this topic of blockchain in very simple language. I must tell you that there have been several technologies that I was introduced to, and if you want me to pick up one that I believe is very simple, that's blockchain, right? But when you read the books, they sound very complex. When you listen to consultants, it's even more complex. When you speak to the technology player, they will say that the only person who could have probably invented the blockchain technology is God or goddess or that particular person. Now that's done because you can then attach a very high price tag. You can charge a lot of money if it is very complex. So I believe blockchain is very, very simple, and my endeavor next, 30 minutes or so will be to explain blockchain in simple language. I wouldn't claim to be an expert on blockchain, but I would definitely claim to be somebody who is enthusiastic about blockchain, somebody who believes that blockchain is going to bring about a lot of transformation, and somebody who believes that it's not just corporates who are going to be benefited through blockchain. It is primarily the end consumers and the citizens who are going to be benefited through blockchain. So blockchain, I believe, is a very, very important subject. And at ISB, we're doing a lot of research on this topic. We have many live projects which are right now happening, which is on blockchain. So what I'm planning to do is talk about, just do a kind of a recap on how traditionally commerce used to happen. We will introduce the concept of blockchain. We'll make an attempt to understand in simple language what is blockchain. And then we'll do a comparison between Internet of Information that all of you are familiar with, because Internet has become an integral part of all of our life. And then we'll move to what is Internet of Value. And we'll make an attempt to actually cite examples of application of blockchain, both in corporate, in industry, and also in government. So that's what we are planning to do. Is it fine? Is it okay with all of you?
Yes.
Yeah. So now let's just move. If you would have had 100 bitcoins purchased in 2010, you would have paid little more than 21 rupees and less than 22 rupees. And its value today would have been more than 2 crore. Okay? I'm not saying you should invest in Bitcoin. I'm just trying to say that if you would have, purchased in 2010, you would have spent 22 paisa for 100 Bitcoins and it would have been worth more than 2 crore today. So that's about Bitcoin. And blockchain is the technology behind Bitcoin. Now, to understand blockchain, you need to know 3 things. Number 1, all of you have played Antakshari, or you would have at least, heard people playing Antakshari, right? So that's one thing that you need to know. If you know that, you would have then known what is blockchain, right? The second is, you should know about sandwich. When you eat a sandwich, I have recently taken one sandwich, which was, the shopkeeper said, this sandwich is very good and it's made out of tuna fish. And then immediately I started thinking, the teenage in Europe, studying there and having sandwiches with tuna fish. So I had that sandwich with tuna fish, and in the night I had a tough time. And I have one of my research associates, Saikat, in this hall right now, and he knows, what I went through that night. Next day morning, I had an international conference which I had to address, but that sandwich, really created a lot of problems. Then I had to get some injection, then run away from the hospital to be able to address that seminar. Now, I was trying to give you the example of sandwich. So if you have taken sandwich, vegetarian or non-vegetarian, understanding blockchain will be very, very simple. The third thing I wanted you to know that if you have got a vaccine or an injection, or you saw somebody getting it in whichever part of the body it is, then you would understand blockchain very easily. The next thing is, when it comes to its application, right? Not just in corporate. I think public distribution system, public welfare system can be significantly benefited through blockchain. Now let's get into the one or two recap. Now traditionally, when commerce used to happen, commerce would happen between two people, and it used to be direct, and all that you need to have, that you need to trust the person you are doing business, and you need to verify the identity of that person so that you know that you will get the remuneration you expect by selling or giving your product. Now, over a period of time, trade became very complex, and you just don't do trade directly. You do trade with people sitting in different parts of the world. You do not know the identity of him or her, and you rely on third party like banks. The government is involved in many transactions, and then you have many central authorities. Like if you look at India, you have the Reserve Bank of India playing a very important role in monetary transactions, especially when you receive money from abroad or you do a remittance, right? So there are many third parties, and these third parties make a lot of money. They sometimes make more money than what you make, but the bottom line is the process, the business process, the speed of business process is reduced. You pay an additional cost, and there is a potential of fraud because you do a lot of transactions through internet today. And I must tell you that India is one of the countries in the world which is ranked very high as far as cyber attack is concerned, right? Cyber attack both to personal asset, government asset, corporate asset, right? India is ranked very high. And if some of you want to have a real anecdote, please get in touch with me. I will share with you a lot of stories on how cyber attacks have become so sophisticated, right? I had the experience of going through a problem of where I was asked to do an official remittance, and the person was actually not authentic. The person was pretending to be the global president of a company that I was managing director, and in the transaction, we also had a robot, right? Robot imitating the voice of somebody. So cyber attacks, cyber crimes have become very sophisticated, right? Then you have the threat to privacy. You have the threat to privacy. Now let's move on. Just to remind you that we are not like isolated. If anybody, policymaker or government official tells you, as far as India is concerned, cyber attack is not a problem, let me tell you that we have a huge problem. You go to a government officer, majority of the government officers will have a Gmail account, right? So they will give you a government official email ID. Then they will say, I think it will be good if you write down ABCX 1999, he became an IAS officer @gmail.com. So the hacking, cybercrime, cyber espionage, cyber warfare, they have become. So as far as our ranking is concerned, right, we are ranked 4th in terms of online security breaches. People talk about, I remember in one of the seminars in one of the cities in a police academy when I was talking about Aadhaar, right? And I am actually a big fan of Aadhaar. When I was talking about Aadhaar and the potential security breaches, the people sitting in that conference room, they all were IPS officers, right? They were so offended. How can I talk anything related to security or related to Aadhaar, right? I must tell you, as far as India is concerned, we are ranked number 1 in Asia Pacific in terms of ransomware, right? We are ranked globally number 5th. If you look at identity, right? Identity, and if you look at just the past 8 years, more than 7 billion identities have been stolen globally. So there is no reason as to why India cannot be attacked, right? So that's some background. Now let's get into the blockchain part of it. Now I was talking about that our conversation right now is going to be more on blockchain and not on Bitcoin, which is a cryptocurrency, right? And all of us know that blockchain is the technology, behind Bitcoin, right? Now, if you look at the governments, both central and state government, I think there is huge potential in improving governance by deploying blockchain, right? Right now, Niti Aayog has got a team of people, and we have, at least I'm aware of one of the alums of Indian School of Business associated with the project on how blockchain can be deployed in government. In fact, myself and our, my colleague, Colonel Rajiv Bhargava, we were along with, Kumar Gaurav, who is sitting in this hall somewhere, and along with, Rajesh, who is a friend of ours, probably is going to be a speaker. You would find that when we did a program for the IAS officers, where more than 50 IAS officers from Government of West Bengal participated in this workshop. Whole day discussion was on blockchain. And I must tell you that the IAS officers, senior IAS officers, they sat through this ISB's one-day program on blockchain, and there is a lot of appreciation about how governments can benefit from the whole subject of blockchain. Now, what is a blockchain? I mentioned to you, you need to understand Antakshari, right? Now, Antakshari game, right, is something we need to understand. We'll discuss that in detail. When you look at vaccine, you get that injection with a vaccine. It's very, very important to understand, is it authentic, right? The vaccine is expected to be maintained, in particular temperature. Was it maintained, right? Maybe it was manufactured 6 months back, but what was the temperature under which it was kept in different days after it was made, right? If you have blockchain, you deploy, you come to know it. When you eat a sandwich, if blockchain is implemented, and if you have sophisticated technologies like, augmented reality and virtual reality, like when you are eating the sandwich and you have tomato inside it, you will probably be able to see that field where that tomato was grown. And if there is cheese, probably, leveraging augmented and virtual reality, you'll be able to see that cow, right, which gave the milk, right? So I think the supply chain is an area where blockchain can be, very, very effective. Now let's look at the Antakshari game. In a traditional Antakshari game, what you do is, you sing a song, and the last letter of the song is important because the next person, right, got to sing a song starting with the last letter, right? This is an example I saw was cited by Digjot Singh, an ISB alum, and I have taken the images from the internet. So if you have to sing a song, it's not a big deal. You can actually sing a song, right? But let's make this Antakshari game a little bit more complex and more difficult, right? Now let's say that you add an additional rule, and you say that the song is not just last letter of the previous song, it should also be sang by a specific singer. Now then it's harder, right? Because you need to know the song of that singer, that artist, and you must know a song which ends with the last letter sang by that singer. So it becomes harder. Now add one more logic, right? So now you have three logic. So begin from the last letter of the previous song. That's the first one, traditional Antakshari. Then be a song from the same singer, second logic. And the third, be released in a random year, right? Let's say 1989. But you haven't told anybody. It is a random year, and that is a 4-digit number, and that 4-digit number is the code of your bicycle. So if you put in those 4 digits, your bicycle lock will open. Now that's very tough, right? For you to know what are those 4 digits bicycle code in my bicycle is very tough. Not only that, that 4 digits should be, you know, a year in which the singer had sang, and so on and so forth. So this is very tough. So in blockchain, you know, the quality of cryptography is very high. So cyber attacks, I think is very difficult as far as blockchain is concerned. Now I just move on a little bit on Bitcoin. Now I was talking to you know, one of our students of advanced management program at ISB sitting in this hall, that Ashraf, can you please tell me in 2010 if an investment would have been made by somebody, right, for 100 Bitcoin, how many cents would he or she invest? So he looked into internet and said 30 cents, which is a little more than 21 rupees. And what will be the value today? He said 2.7 crore in Indian rupees, which is 27 million rupees, and 393K US dollar. So that's a lot of money. So a little bit on Bitcoin, and I'm sure you're going to have discussion during the day. There was discussion yesterday, and when Bitcoin was conceived and invented, just like mines, where you have finite resources, you know, the logic given was you will have finite number of Bitcoin, which was 21 million. Just to give you an idea, if in, you know, first of all, you need to know a little bit about miner. Who are the miner, right? In cryptography, miners play a very important role. So, and you must know miners are people who get paid for 2 things. Number one, to verify transactions. And number 2, you know, they mine Bitcoins, right? And if you would have done the mining in 2009, right? Suppose if you would have mined a bit, you know, 200 Bitcoins in 2009, you would have taken just a few days. But if you use the same computer that you used in 2009 for mining 200 Bitcoins, if you use it today, the same computer, right, then you will be spending, you know, for 1 Bitcoin, 98 years. So which means that the traditional computers are not enough for mining. You really need very, very powerful computers, like application-specific integrated circuit computers for mining. You can't do it alone, and therefore, you know, you generally have a pool of miners from different parts of the world. They all are working hard to validate every transaction. They are working very hard for mining the Bitcoins, right? And it's increasingly becoming tougher and tougher to mine Bitcoins, right? I recently met a friend of mine in South Delhi. I went to his house and his wife complained to me. I said, what's the problem? She said, go to that room and look at the temperature. I went to one of the rooms. It was so hot, right? And then I found many computers. My friend is doing mining and he has been doing it, and electricity consumption has gone up, right? How much Bitcoin he got is a different story, but one thing is clear, that the energy bills had went up, right? Now, what's a blockchain, right? Now, let's look at a blockchain, and let's take a very simple example. Now, in this example, what we are doing is, assume you are doing a transaction. Money got to go from person A to person B. Now, you have a lot of details there, bank details, this detail, that detail, whatever, right? And if you're talking about using a blockchain, you actually do not need a banker in between. Now, all that information you have in this block, you can codify it, and we call it as hashing. So there is a concept called hashing. You have mathematical algorithm which can create a code, and you can call it as hashing. And there are popular languages. So let's say the first block is related to some transaction. There is a hash, which is a code you can imagine. You have the block 2, you have some code, you have the block 3, you have the code. Now in a blockchain, each blocks will actually be linked. how does it get linked? For example, let's say you have this chain, and in the chain you have the block, and the hash is like your thumb impression. It is unique, right? It is unique, and it's not very simple. It's not easy to remember. A popular hashing algorithm is SHA-256. It's a very popular hashing algorithm. Now, if you hash that this is chapter 2, you can just see how long it is. This is the code. This is the code which will get generated. You can just see this long red color code, right? Long code. It's not easy to remember. And if you make a small change in the information, let's say this is chapter 2.0, and you can see that when you do the hashing, it is totally different. So hashing makes it very, very unique, and it's almost like a thumb impression. So if you have a blockchain, the first block has a hash. In second block will be connected with the previous block with the hash of the previous block. So the whole chain will be connected because they all will have the reference to the previous, block's hash. Now you want to make a small change, very small change, right? Immediately the previous block, right? It will be noticed that somebody is trying to make a change, right? And similarly, if the block is very long, right, it will be almost impossible for you to make those changes so fast, right? It's unless majority of the people in the community are crooked, they all do a conspiracy that they will fiddle with it, only then it can happen. And it's not in one computer. Please remember, yesterday many speakers mentioned that unlike in traditional business and banks, where you have a centralized server, in blockchain you have thousands and thousands of computers. It could be millions of computers in different parts of the world, and whatever you are doing, whatever you see in your computer, there is a replica of that ledger in all the computers, and you can't really change everything. So we understood what is a blockchain. Now let's try to look at again spend a minute. Now when you send an email to somebody and you attach a file, let's say it's today's presentation, you send me an email and I'll send you a copy, and I promise I'll send you a copy. Now I can do that, you will instantly get it. But if I want to really run it, right, you have a good cause and you want me to send you 100 rupees, right, you would get it instantly. You will not get it instantly. You want to do a remittance to San Francisco and your daughter is there or your son is there, you can't do that remittance. Or you want to do a remittance from there to here, you cannot do it. So Internet of Information, there are many, many protocols. But the fact lies, it created value, right? But very limited value, right? Very, very limited value. It hasn't really, Internet of Information, we have not been benefited. Internet has created so many middlemen. For everything, you have a middleman. Anything you do, you want to book a hotel, you got a middleman. You want to do a transaction, you have a bank. You want to book your, let's say, you want to book a venue, you got a middleman. For everything, you want to buy a shirt, you got a middleman, right? You want to buy a book, right? You buy it through Amazon, Amazon is a middleman. You got an ideal card, right? And you'll be very happy to give your card for somebody to have a ride. And I have a requirement, right? You have a middleman, right? You have Uber, you have Ola. So for everywhere, Internet has created middleman. And this middleman are charging money. So I think the Aam Aadmi, right, the poor people are most adversely impacted, but also the lower middle class are adversely impacted, and also the rich people are adversely impacted. Now if you look at the global value of total remittance that's happening, right, worldwide, it is said there is $180 trillion worth of cross-border payments made every year, right? $180 trillion. Can you imagine cross-border payments? And the cost of these cross-border payment is $1.7 trillion. So there is a huge cost, and it's the people, it's the customers who are actually paying that cost. And there are middlemen. So these costs are high because of middlemen. Now let's get into what we call as ecosystem, right? You have automotive ecosystem, you have defense ecosystem. If you go to Europe, in Europe, the defense and aerospace industry is very sophisticated, right? I used to work before ISB for a company called Dassault Systems as a managing director, and they have technology which helps in collaboration. So you have almost 20,000 plus suppliers, they collaborate, right, with a platform called Boost Aerospace, and these 20,000 suppliers can get connected, they can share information, they can do collaborative development. But please remember, each of them will have their own banker. Each of them will have their own server, right? And if you count the number of middlemen who will be there, auditors, bankers, large number of them, and all of them will be making money, right? So this particular slide, I really like it, and I think today we're going to have somebody from IBM, a great company. They got some interesting solution as far as blockchain is concerned. In traditional, if you have parties like A, B, C, D, right? Each of them will have their own computers, right? Bank will have its own computers, own records. Auditor will have its own computers and records. But when you talk about blockchain, we spoke about that sandwich. You will get the visibility on the quality of that sandwich, right? If you are taking a vasa fish, if it has grown in water in Vietnam, which is very polluted, you will get visibility, right? So supply chain, I think, is one area. Government, I would say that is again a very big potential area, right? The public distribution system that you have, right? Some states got a policy that if you have a daughter, and if daughter has passed 10th standard, you get a bicycle. But the process of getting that bicycle, right, is so complex. It goes through so many parties. It takes so many days. Finally, someday, that bicycle may actually be purchased on paper. GST may also be paid, but that bicycle may not go to that girl who passed the 10th standard, because the father may tell to the shopkeeper that आप कागज में लिखिए मुझे मिल गया, मुझे नहीं चाहिए, मुझे 15,000 रुपया का जगह में instead of 15,000 rupees you give me 10,000 rupees but cash. My daughter will manage without a bicycle. So everybody will be happy, right? Government will get GST, shopkeeper will get the money, except that poor girl will actually not get the bicycle. Now I think if you look at UK has deployed blockchain, right? They have implemented their public benefit systems. They have deployed, and I think they've got some good benefit. There's an organization called GovCoin, Digital Payment Solution. I think very interesting. You should Google that. Ola, Uber. I think they're going to have a tough time. I don't think in future, if blockchain is implemented, you will do direct transaction. You will not use an apps which acts as a middleman. I think Ola, Uber will be gone. I think voting, every time whoever loses the election would say that there's a problem with the machine. And we really do not know whether there is a problem. We just don't know, right? There may be problem, there may not be problem, and you can't rule out the possibility that there is a problem, because after all, these are all designed by human beings. May be perfect, may not be perfect, but I think blockchain, if blockchain is implemented, right, and there are solutions for that. I met somebody in this hall who is offering solution of blockchain for voting. If you look at our medical records, right? Our medical records are at risk. If blockchain is deployed, you can decide and you will know who has viewed your medical records. If you look at energy, today you have the national grid. You may be generating power on your rooftop, but I think in future, if you are generating power, you can be directly connected with the consumer of the power. So I think, you know, power selling. If you look at artists, there are many artists, they lose their IP. Their songs are, you know, their painting, their songs, their music is duplicated. I think blockchain can connect directly the fan of the song and the person who is the artist. If you look at Amazon, right? I don't think you will need Amazon for buying things. You can be connected with the potential, you know, the actual seller. So your cost can actually come down. If you look at government, yes, in government, I think, you know, there could be a lot of improvement. You go to Sweden. Sweden is planning to implement blockchain for real estate, right? I was telling you yesterday, I just bought a property, and the pain you really go through, and the story that you read that originally the property belonged to whom, you just can't figure it out. You just don't know, is it correct or not correct? You just pray and think it is correct and fine, right? And you feel good, must be authentic, because you sat in a registrar's office, you waited for hours together, kuch to hoga, right? You're happy that you went through the pain, but you really do not know what's happening. Crowdfunding, I think there are so many startups, right? Crowdfunding, blockchain can be very, very effective, right? IBM and Samsung, they're doing some good work in the area of Internet of Things. So just to sum up, right? Blockchain, when you talk about public blockchain, you have the network which is open, your data is shared, you know, the network is decentralized, you have a distributed ledger, right? There is no central point, so nobody is controlling it, there is no middleman, and your data is trusted and it is secure, and participants in the chain, right? They come to a consensus and they all agree. What I have done is I have actually put together a set of literature which I believe is important. I've also cited a few examples. I told you about Sweden, but you must know about Singapore. Problems are real, right? Singapore got systems which are much more sophisticated than ours. They had a fraud of $200 million, right? You have Standard Chartered lost $200 million. The same invoice was claimed, a duplicate invoice was claimed for, you know, for withdrawing this $200 million worth. Same 1,000 rupee notes, right? And all of us, we have seen demonetization overnight, you know, everything that you have, they were not real. The other day, actually, my younger brother told my mother-in-law, I lost my mother in the month of March, you know, an old suitcase. He found some very clean, nice notes of 500 rupees, right? Not too much of money, but they are all taxpayers. I mean, we all pay tax for that, right? Somebody decided from tomorrow, you know, your notes are not valid, it's not valid. You heard yesterday about Cyprus. The government decided that your money will be confiscated. It is gone and over. So I think on a relative basis, the systems in India is better. But you know, the citizens have paid, right? I spoke about Sweden. Sweden is talking about the entire real estate, right, transaction. They want to leverage blockchain. You go to Estonia. Estonia is talking about healthcare system, data that is there related to healthcare. You go to Georgia and Ghana. Ghana is known to be not the cleanest country as far as business transactions are concerned. They were planning to implement blockchain because they want to be remembered as a country which is no more corrupt, right? You look at overall a blockchain, I must tell you that it has huge potential. You can actually implement it in diverse industries. I gave you some examples. So just to sum up my presentation, right? We discussed the problems with traditional commerce. We have discussed what is blockchain. We have discussed what is distributed ledgers, that your information is not in one place, but it's all over in different computers, and people cannot fiddle with it, right? We spoke about internet, that internet was useful, but it lived its own era, right? I think that era got to go through transformation. We're going to get into the next phase. It's not just sharing of a PPT file. It's not just exchanging an email. We should be able to exchange value. Internet doesn't help you to exchange value. There's a lot of intermediaries, middlemen, they make a lot of money. We gave some example of Internet of Value. We discussed about blockchain. We looked at application both in government and also in corporate. And I have given a set of references that you may find it interesting. I'm happy to share the copy. Just send me an email. And my email is very simple. I'm sorry, it's not @gmail.com, it's @isb.edu, and my name is Chandan Chowdhury. You got to get the spelling of Chowdhury correct, put an underscore, and you get me. And you can get me on my Twitter handle @dr_Chandan_C. Thank you.
Hello. So I have a question here. Like, 21 million Bitcoin will be produced, and the rewards for the Bitcoins will reduce in 24 years. So right now, I don't know exact amount, but I think 12.5 rupees is the reward for the miners. So what would the future of the miners? Because if the rewards will reduce on a regular basis, like for 24 years rewards will reduce. So why miners they keep mining? Because it takes a lot of energy, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of cost to be made.
So, by the way, very good question. This question is that miners, they do two things. One is they do this verification of transaction. They solve that mathematical puzzle to figure out what was the lock of that bicycle key, which is same as the year of the artist singing a song and a song which had the last letter, right, of the previous song. So miners do a lot of hard work, right? They mine Bitcoins. His question is, what is the future of miners? Because mining is going to be tougher and tougher. So his question is why? You must remember, one very interesting thing about blockchain is, just like a diamond or a gold mine, you have finite resources, right? You have these 21 million Bitcoins. And therefore, for miner to mine is going to be tougher and tougher. So they would probably get reward which will be good enough, because I told you the value from 2010 to 2019 February, which was 22 paisa. Today it is 2.1 crore. So I think miners would have good revenue, but increasingly you will have a bigger pool of, the number of miners will increase because you would need more and more computing power. And I think the technology is also going to change. In future, energy consumption for mining Bitcoin, I would believe that is going to reduce. Today it's very high. Any other question?
Dr. Chandan, I think his question was, a time will come.
I think his question was, a time will come when all the coins would have been mined. Then what happens, right?
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, suppose
So
all
a
the
time will come
gold.
when you would have mined all there is to be mined, right?
Yeah.
So then that was his question, then how does it survive beyond that?
So
I think the
they have to
answer is that
verify.
you will still have a transaction fee, right? You will still have a transaction fee. So validators will still make a transaction fee.
Yeah,
Right?
so you will get the transaction fee, you will continue to get, and second is, that it's something like, all gold are mined, what happens next? But here what you will be doing is, as you rightly say, you'll be getting the transaction fee. Correct. Yeah.
May I start? Greetings, sir. Firstly, thank you for your speech. It was very informative. I'm part. I'm a class 9 student from Anand Public School. My question was that.
Take it closer to the mic.
Okay. I was saying I'm part. I'm a student of class 9 from Anand Public School. My question was that you were talking about the vaccines. That through Bitcoin you can get, through blockchain you can get information like where it was stored, was the temperature correct or not. But so there are already devices in existence like a BVM, which is a vaccine biometer. Sorry. And that device is being used and it is verified by organizations. It is used by organizations like United Nations and governments of many countries. So I guess it is efficient enough.
Yeah, but you know that vaccine travels from, let's say, Cincinnati to Jilvitalaya. And that vaccine is supposed to be, let's say, capped in, 0 degree. Now, when it came from Cincinnati to Jilvitalaya, what happened in between during transport? It's not that easy. In fact, right now we are working on a project which is related to cold chain, where we are trying to really talk about your entire process of where it is sourced and where it is consumed, right? So if somewhere it's already working with some solution, very good, but it is a problem. It is a problem.
So like most of the vaccines are stored between 2 degrees Celsius and 8 degrees Celsius, and if the vaccine is exposed to temperatures above or below that, then a vaccine biometer will react and it will give the reading.
Yeah, so I just told you there is a solution which is already there, and if it is used for all vaccine, right? Go to a doctor in a village, look at the vaccine which is given by the doctor, at Chilvitalaya, and you're going to figure out is the problem solved. Go to Africa, go to Kenya, look at, you don't need to go to South Delhi, an independent doctor who gives vaccine, figure it out, is the problem solved. It is a very big problem, it continues to be a big problem. If it has been solved, good news.
Sir,
Right?
is it
Thank you.
really
Thank you.
responsible?
Yeah. Next question. Any other
Yes,
question?
sir. I have a question here.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This side.
Yeah.
My question to you would be, you were referring to various different people or hubs in the supply chain having a sharing common ledger. How does blockchain and what capacities does blockchain allow to ensure the privacy of data? Like, for example, I may be part of a blockchain, of a supply chain where a lot of my competitors are also there, and we are sharing the common ledger, and which you rightly said is going to be having all the information. But how and what options does blockchain facilitates, at least in today's era, where the privacy of my information is being protected from all unintended uses, and it is only being exposed to the respective people who are authorized and who should be able to access this?
Yeah, so one is if you really look at that hash, you can't figure out anything from that hash. So the information that you have, you hashed it. And from that hash, you can't really figure out what it is. All that you know, it's authentic. Now, first of all, your ledger, you may use blockchain, which is in public ledger, or it can be private, okay? So if it is private, it's understood. Even when it is public ledger, it's not that everything is known to everybody, right? It's not that everything is known to everybody. It's not, everything is published to everybody.
I'm
It
sorry, I
also
won't be
depends
able to
on
agree to that.
what is published, right?
I won't be able to agree to
So
that
I
also.
think, I think
We
we
can
will
discuss
take
this
up-
offline though, but I won't agree to that.
I think it's a very interesting question, and I looked at the session. You do have some sessions where you are discussing this. Yeah. Any other questions? Last one. Yeah.
So, since you talk about demonetization, after demonetization, next day in Kashmir, there were no stone attacks. Okay, so
Next day, sorry, I can get you.
next day in Kashmir, there were no stone attacks, like throwing of stone attacks.
What attacks did you get?
Stone
Stone attacks, okay.
Okay, so what do you think if cryptocurrencies, taking the future prospect of blockchain, what do you think if cryptocurrencies comes into play in all over the country what happens to those attacks? Like, you will not be able to stop that.
Sorry,
Stop the funding. You will not be able to stop the funding for those stone pelting.
Sorry, I couldn't get it.
He's saying that all the terrorists are funded by those like currencies. So if cryptocurrency is there, then people would not be like terrorists won't be able to get the money. So will that stop the terror attacks or stone pelting on the Kashmirites?
Yeah, because if it is cryptocurrency, then your currency is secure, right? It's not like the government decides from tomorrow your money has no value. It's not like this. From tomorrow there is no 500 rupees. If I say today from tomorrow there is no Bitcoin, my statement has got no value because Bitcoins are there, and people who got Bitcoin, who do transaction with Bitcoin, they will assign a value, and it will continue. So I think cryptocurrencies are definitely much safer than the notes you have in your pocket, right?
So just the last question, yes.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah. No, take a mic and answer. Yeah? Take a mic and answer. Yeah, take a mic. Yeah, please take a mic. Please take a mic. Yeah, just after this, we have one of our friends, yesterday panel members had a question. Yeah, please go ahead.
Dr. Chandan,
Yeah, please stand up. Yeah.
I have two questions.
Take it closer.
I have two questions. I think a lot of us are taking the approach outside, even if you look at the major IT companies, when somebody comes to them with a problem, they're just saying if blockchain can really help solve the problem, but they're not going inside out. Could we have a better technology than blockchain to solve the problem? I know the features that it provides, immutability and transparency. Can we have a better technology than blockchain? Do you see an opportunity for a better technology than blockchain that can provide the features of immutability and transparency?
Yeah. So, I think it's a very good question. You're going to look at it like this, okay? What problem are you trying to solve? So that's very important. What is the problem that we are trying to solve? That's very important. Even when you deploy blockchain, it shouldn't be just like, I want to deploy blockchain because I want to deploy blockchain. You need to look at what problem are you solving? How painful is that problem? I think that's point number one. And what is that areas where you believe that a middleman, right, has become a cause of inefficiency, right? And that there is a cost that you pay to the middleman for the business process. Those are potential areas. Now, blockchain technology, there are different players, different vendors in the world. And, which vendor will be really successful, or which set of vendors will be successful? It will depend on how good is their solution and how much do they charge, what investment they need to make for implementing that. So it's a good question, but I think it just depends, right? Yeah. There was somebody who wanted to explain. So would you take a mic and you wanted to explain something? You can just explain. Yeah, you need to close, right? Yeah. So let's do one thing. Please, whoever wanted to explain to whomever, please go over to him during break and explain. And do come and share with me. It will be a pleasure. Thank you very much.